store. Trina, hey. Man, will take my pen. Swiper, no swiping. Let me find my pen, y'all. Let me get this going. All right, beautiful people. Divine blessings. My kids and my ink pens. Oh, let me see if I can. All right, y'all. Happy Thursday, Shayla. Great rising. That's why. Shalom. All right, y'all. It is Thursday, September the 2nd, 2021. Day 249 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, another 3-year consecutive day count. Day 918. Y'all, today we're reading Hosea, the last 2 chapters, 13 and 14. And then we go right into, I think it's Joel. Let's just say Joel. I think Joel chapter 1. I think it's Joel. Alright, y'all. Then we're going to pick up where we left off at in Caesar's Messiah. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the Shema. Y'all hear the song in the background? That's Bella Barbie doll singing. You got her this Barbie doll, this concert Barbie doll, and she has a speaker built inside of her with a microphone and all of this other stuff. So if you hear that, you will probably hear it like 11 dozen times this morning. That's what it is in the background. Her doll is having a concert. She changing clothes back and forth between every show and everything. So just in case if y'all just see me doing like this, I'm just jamming to her concert, y'all. Okay, y'all. This Shema is found in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verses 3, starting at verse 3. Hear, therefore, O Israel, and observe to do it, that it may be well with you, and that you may increase mightily, as Yahuwah, the mighty one of our fathers, has promised us, in a land that flows with milk and honey. Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah, our mighty one, he is one. And you shall love Yahuwah, your mighty one, with all your heart, and with all your soul, and with all your might. And these words which I command you this day shall be in your heart. And you shall teach them diligently unto your children. And you shall talk with them when you sit in your house, and when you walk by the way, and when you lie down, and when you rise up. And you shall bind them for a sign upon your hand, and they shall be as frontlets between your eyes. And you shall write them upon the posts of your house and on your gates. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, to fear Yahuwah, our mighty one, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive, as it is at this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before Yahuwah, our mighty one, as he has commanded us. All right, y'all. Look like they're trying to set up this racetrack in here in the kitchen while I'm trying to read. He just bought his little case of cars down here. Oh my gosh. I see him. I'm gonna have to kick him out of here, y'all. Hey, can we not be so loud? That's what you about to do. You about to start rolling the cars on that track. All right, y'all. Mom, shalom. Okay, y'all. So let's go ahead and start over here in Hosea. Oh, yeah, because I moved that out the way. I needed my chair son. All right, y'all. Hosea chapter 13. Yahuwah's anger against Israel. When the tribe of Ephraim spoke, the people shook with fear, for that tribe was important in Israel. But the people of Ephraim sinned by worshiping Baal, and thus sealed their destruction. Now they continue to sin by making silver idols, images shaped skillfully with human hands. Sacrifice to these, they cry, and kiss the calf idols. Therefore they will disappear like the morning mist, like the dew in the morning sun, like chaff blown by the wind, like smoke from a chimney. I have been your God ever since I brought you out of Egypt, but you must acknowledge no God but me, for there is no other Savior. I took care of you in the wilderness, in that dry and thirsty land.
Mommy,
But okay. But when you had eaten and were satisfied, you became proud and forgot me. So now I will attack you like a lion. That's Isaiah waving hi to everybody. But when you had eaten and were satisfied, you became proud and forgot me. So now I will attack you like a lion, like a leopard that lurks along the road, like a bear whose cubs have been taken away. I will tear out your heart. I will devour you like a hungry lioness and mangle you like a wild animal. You are about to be destroyed, O Israel.
If you hear a race car coming, one of these tracks, that's my Hot Wheels car.
Isaiah wanted y'all to know, if y'all hear a car in the background racing down a track, that's his Hot Wheels race car. So if you hear a little that's him, okay? If you hear music, concert, that's Bella. If you hear crash, that's Isaiah, okay? You are about to be destroyed, O Israel, yes, by me, your only helper. Now where is your king? Let him save you. Where are all the leaders of the land, the kings and the officials you demanded of me? In my anger, I gave you kings, and in my fury, I took them away. Ephraim's guilt has been collected, and his sins has been stored up for punishment. Pain has come to the people like the pain of childbirth, but they are like a child who resists being born. The moment of birth has arrived, but they stay in the womb. Should I ransom them from the grave? Should I redeem them from death? O death, bring on your terrors. O grave, bring on your plagues. For I will not take pity on them. Ephraim was the most fruitful of all his brothers, but the east wind, a blast from Yahuwah, will arise from the desert. All their flowing springs will run dry, and all their wells will disappear. Every precious thing they own will be plundered and carried away.
Can I show them this one?
No, you cannot, son. I told them about it, and they can picture it, all right? It's an orange Hot Wheel racetrack that they've extended from the kitchen all the way through the house, and they're racing these cars on it.
No, Mom. It's the kitchen, the dining room, into the living room.
That's what I said. Well, I said all through the house, but okay, kitchen, dining room, and living room. So technically, that's not all through the house, but all through the house
Right
with
here, Mom.
the upstairs and all
Highway
that.
right
Okay.
here, Mom.
All right, Isaiah.
Down here, the goal down there. And they gotta make it to the finish line.
Okay, no more interruptions. Thank you. The people of Samaria must bear the consequences of their guilt because they rebelled against their God. They will be killed by an invading army, their little ones dashed to death against the ground, their pregnant women ripped open by swords. All right, y'all. Next chapter and last chapter of Hosea, Hosea chapter 14. Healing for the repentant. Return, O Israel, to your God, for your sins have brought you down. Bring your confessions and return to Yahuwah. Say to him, forgive all our sins and graciously receive us, so that we may offer you our praises. Assyria cannot save us, nor can our war horses. Never again will we say to the idols we have made, you are our gods. No, in you alone do the orphans find mercy. Yahuwah says, then I will heal you of your faithlessness. My love will know no bounds, for my anger will be gone forever. I will be to Israel like a refreshing dew from heaven. Israel will blossom like the lily. It will send roots deep into the soil, like the cedars in Lebanon. Its branches will spread out like beautiful olive trees, as fragrant as the cedars of Lebanon. My people will again live under my shade. They will flourish like grain and blossom like grapevines. They will be as fragrant as the wines of Lebanon. O Israel, stay away from idols. I am the one who answers your prayers and cares for you. I am like a green tree that is always green. All your fruit comes from me. Let those who are wise understand these things. Let those with discernment listen carefully. The paths of Yahuwah are true and right, and righteous people live by walking in them. But those in paths. Oh, let me read this again. Let those who are wise understand these things. Let those with discernment listen carefully. The paths of Yahuwah are true and right, and righteous people live by walking in them. But in those paths, sinners stumble and fall. And that was the last of the book of Hosea, and what's this next one? Yep, Joel chapter 1. Yahuwah gave this message to Joel, son of Pethuel, mourning over the locust plague. Hear this, you leaders of the people. Listen, all you who live in the land. In all your history, has anything like this happened before? Tell your children about it in the years to come, and let your children tell their children. Pass the story down from generation to generation. After the cutting locusts finished eating the crops, the swarming locusts took what was left. After them came the hopping locusts, and then the stripping locusts too. Wake up, you drunkards, and weep. Wail, all you wine drinkers. All the grapes are ruined, and all your sweet wine is gone. A vast army of locusts has invaded my land, a terrible army too numerous to count. Its teeth are like lions' teeth, its fangs like those of a lioness. It has destroyed my grapevines and ruined my fig trees, stripping their bark and destroying it, leaving the branches bare and white. Weep like a bride dressed in black, mourning the death of her husband. For there is no grain or wine to offer at the temple of Yahuwah. So the priests are in mourning. The ministers of Yahuwah are weeping. The fields are ruined. The land is stripped bare. The grain is destroyed. The grapes have shriveled, and the olive oil is gone. Despair, all you farmers. Wail, all you vine growers. Weep because the wheat and barley, all the crops of the field, are ruined. The grapevines have dried up, and the fig trees have withered. The pomegranate trees, palm trees, and apple trees, all the fruit trees have dried up, and the people's joy has dried up with them. Dress yourselves in burlap and weep, you priests. Wail, you who serve before the altar. Come, spend the night in burlap, you ministers of my God, for there is no grain or wine to offer at the temple of your God. Announce a time of fasting. Call the people together for a solemn meeting. Bring the leaders and all the people of the land into the temple of Yahuwah your God, and cry out to him there. The day of Yahuwah is near, the day when destruction comes from the Almighty. How terrible that day will be. Our food disappears before our very eyes. No joyful celebrations are held in the house of our God. The seeds die in the parched ground, and the grain crops fail. The barns stand empty, and granaries are abandoned. How the animals moan with hunger. The herds of cattle wander about confused because they have no pasture. The flocks of sheep and goats bleat in misery. Lord, help us. The fire has consumed the wilderness pastures, and flames have burned up all the trees. Even the wild animals cry out to you, because the streams have dried up, and fire has consumed the wilderness pastures. And that, my beautiful people, is our reading for today. We will finish the book of Joel tomorrow. So let's go ahead and hop on over here to chapter 1 of Caesar's Messiah. Chapter 1. And we're in chapter 1, which is page 21. We read the introduction yesterday. All right, I'm not sure if we're gonna make it. Where we at? We at 14 minutes. We might make it through the whole chapter, and then again, I don't think so. We might not. I know listening to the whole chapter, I don't think we're gonna make it through the whole chapter, y'all. Listening to it, I think it was about 30 minutes, chapter 1. And then again, we might. Let me just read. Okay, y'all. The first Christians and Flavians. Shalom, Monty, Belinda Brown, Robert. That's Robert. Okay. This book provides a new interpretive framework for the Gospels. This framework renders every passage in the Gospels coherent and provides an answer to the question of who composed them. I shall show that intellectuals working for Titus Flavius, the second of the 3 Flavian Caesars, created Christianity. Their main purpose was to replace the xenophobic Jewish messianism that waged war against the Roman Empire with a version of Judaism that would be obedient to Rome. One of the individuals involved with the creations of the Gospels was the first century historian Flavius Josephus, who, as he related it, led a fabulous life. He was born in 37 CE into the royal family of Judea, the Maccabees. Like Jesus, Josephus was a child prodigy who astounded his elders with his knowledge of Judaic law. Josephus also claimed to have been a member of each of the Jewish sects, sects of his era, the Sadducees, the Pharisees, and the Essenes. So if y'all ever heard about the Essenes Gospels or read the Essenes Gospels, you can tell there are some different things in it, but let's keep listening. When the Jewish rebellion against Rome broke out in 66 CE, though he had no described military background and believed the cause hopeless, Josephus was given command of the revolutionary army of Galilee. Taken captive, he was brought before the Roman general Vespasian, to whom he presented himself as a prophet. At this point, God rather conveniently spoke to Josephus and informed him that his favor had switched from the Jews to the Romans. Josephus then claimed that Judaism's messianic prophecies foresaw not a Jewish Messiah, but Vespasian, whom Josephus predicted would become the Lord of all mankind. After this came to pass, so to speak, and Vespasian was proclaimed emperor, he rewarded Josephus's clairvoyance by adopting him. Thus, the Jewish rebel Josephus Bar Matthias became Flavius Josephus, the son of Caesar. He became an ardent supporter of Rome's conquest of Judea, and when Vespasian returned to Rome to be crowned emperor, Josephus stayed behind to assist the new emperor's son Titus with the siege of Jerusalem. After Jerusalem had been destroyed, Josephus took up residence within the Flavian court at Rome, where he enjoyed the patronage of Vespasian and the subsequent Flavian emperors, Titus and Domitian. It was while he was living in Rome that Josephus wrote his 2 major works, The Wars of the Jews, a description of the 66 through 73 CE war between the Romans and the Jews, and Jewish Antiquities, a history of the Jewish people. Now, you may have heard this if you have been in the Hebrew community long enough, because they start relying on a lot of Josephus's works, which is not too good at all, because like I said, they wake up from one lie, and it seems like when they it's like they're trying to get free, but as they get free and they're breaking away from the church and in the Hebrew roots and stuff, when they pick up Josephus rocks them right back to sleep, right? So stay away from Josephus's works, y'all. He's the devil incarnate. Okay, listen. All right. Josephus's histories are of great significance to Christianity. Virtually all that we know regarding the social context of the New Testament is derived from them. Without these works, the very dating of the New Testament would be impossible. Josephus's histories provided Jesus with historical documentation, a fact that is widely known. They also provided Jesus with another kind of documentation, a fact largely forgotten. Early Christians believed that the events Josephus described in Wars of the Jews proved that Jesus had been able to see into the future. It's difficult to find even one early Christian who taught another position. Church scholars such as Tertullian, Justin Martyr, and Cyprian were unanimous in proclaiming that Josephus's description of the conquest of Judea by Titus Flavius and Wars of the Jews proved that Jesus' prophecies had come to pass. As Eusebius wrote in 325 CE, if anyone compares the word of our Savior with the other accounts of the historian Josephus concerning the whole war, how can one fail to wonder and to admit that the foreknowledge and the prophecy of our Savior were truly divine and marvelously strange? One example of Jesus' foreknowledge that was the end of what he said when he said marvelously strange. One example of Jesus' foreknowledge that so impressed Eusebius was his prediction that the foes of Jerusalem would encircle it with a wall, demolish the city and its temple, and level its inhabitants. Quote, and when he was now getting near Jerusalem, he came into full view of the city. He wept aloud over it and exclaimed, for the time is coming upon thee when thy foes will throw up around thee earthworks and a wall, investing thee and hemming thee in on every side, and level you and your children within you, and they will not leave one stone upon another in you, because you did not know the time of your visitation. End quote. And that was Luke chapter 19, verses 37 through 44. And we about to see where they pulled this from, and why his prophecy, why what Jesus said in Luke seemed like it was a prophecy, right? We're uncovering everything. Josephus recorded in the Wars of the Jews that all the precise details Jesus foresaw for Jerusalem did indeed come to pass. Titus ordered his soldiers to build a wall about the whole city. Titus, like Jesus, saw the encircling of a city as an event sanctioned by God, who inspired his soldiers with a divine fury. Josephus also recorded that Titus did not merely burn Jerusalem and defile its temple, but ordered that they should be left exactly as Jesus had foreseen, with not one stone upon another. Quote, Titus gave orders that they should now demolish the entire city and temple. End quote.
What?
Hey, okay, look. Take it through there. Y'all can place it. No, listen, don't start that. Listen, figure out, unmix the cars, and go through there and do it. All right?
You're gonna hear it. Look, hear your car.
Maybe that's gonna be a little too loud. Guys, y'all need to, yes, thank you. Go through there. Jesus stated that these calamities would befall Jerusalem's inhabitants because they did not know the time of your visitation. The coming visitation was to be made by someone he called the Son of Man, a title used by the prophet Daniel for the Jewish Messiah. While it had been universally believed that Jesus was referring to himself when he used the expression Son of Man, He usually spoke of this individual in third person and not as of himself. Jesus repeatedly warned the Jews, careful. Jesus repeatedly warned that during the visitation of the Son of Man, various disasters, like those he foresaw above, would occur. Quote, "Be on the alert, therefore, for you do not know the day on which your Lord is coming. Therefore, you must also be ready, for it is at a time when you do not expect that the Son of Man will come." Hold on, let me go back. "Therefore, you all must be ready, for it is at a time when you do not expect him that the Son of Man will come." End quote. And that's Matthew chapter 24, verse 42 to 44. Why? Oh, here's another quote. Bella, can you try not to push that while we're in here? Because that's louder than what it originally was. So, okay, take her concert back through there for me.
It's done.
Okay, it's done. She started again, sis. Okay. Go back through there till she's done with that song. You trying to stop it? Oh. Okay, thank you. Try to keep her quiet. "Watch therefore, for you know neither the day nor the hour in which the Son of Man is coming." Matthew 25, verse 13. Though Jesus did not say exactly when the visitation of the Son of Man would occur, he did state that he would come before the generation alive during his ministry passed away. Quote, "So you also," hey, look, you're starting to make more noise. You're dinging it against stuff. Okay, so you need to move that out the way so it doesn't do that. Or I'm going to remove the track from the kitchen. You're just going to have to run it through that part of the house. All right? All right. So you also, when you see these signs, may be sure that he is near at your very door. I tell you in solemn truth that the present generation will certainly not pass away without all these things having first taken place. Matthew 24, verses 33 through 34. Jews of this era saw a generation. Hold on, y'all. Let's go. No, we're not doing the cars. Come on. We got to pause this until I'm done. Because, y'all, it's louder than what I thought it was going to be. Come on.
I just want to take these off.
Okay, we'll take them off. Take them through there. Let's go. You too, Bella. Take your singing doll with you. Thank you. Sing on up out of here, sister. Okay. Jews of this era saw a generation lasting 40 years. So Titus's destruction of Jerusalem in 70 CE fit perfectly into the time frame Jesus gave his prophecy. However, while Jesus did accurately predict events from the coming war, there was a flaw in his foreknowledge, that is, that the person whose visitation actually brought about the destruction of Jerusalem was not Jesus, but Titus Flavius. If his prophecy did envision, as Eusebius and other church scholars have maintained, events from the coming war between the Romans and the Jews, then the Son of Man Jesus warned of seems not to have been himself, but Titus, a point that has been overlooked by modern scholarship. There was little written between the 5th and the 15th centuries commenting on the numerous parallels between the events Josephus recorded in Wars of the Jews and Jesus' predictions. This is not surprising, as the church is known to have actively discouraged scriptural analysis during this time. What evidence was left, however, suggests that during the entire Middle Ages, Christians viewed Josephus' depiction of the war between the Romans and the Jews as proof of Christ's divinity. Icons, carvings on baskets, and religious paintings from this era all portrayed the 70 CE destruction of Jerusalem as a fulfillment of Jesus' doomsday prophecy. Yes?
When it says time gonna be up.
Boy, go on through there. The importance of Josephus' works to Christians during this period can also be gauged by the fact that some of the Eastern Christian churches of Syria and Armenia actually included his books as part of their handwritten Bible. In Europe as well, the following invention of the printing press, Latin editions of the Bible included antiquities and wars of the Jews. Following the Reformation, scholars were able to record their opinions and their writings to show that they continued to view the relationship between the New Testament and the wars of the Jews as proof of Christ's divinity. On the significance of 70 CE, for example, Dr. Thomas Newton wrote in his 1754 work, Dissertations on the Prophecies, quote, "As a general in the wars, Josephus must have had exact knowledge of all transactions. His history was approved by Vespasian and Titus, who ordered it to be published. He designed nothing less, and yet as if he had designed nothing more. His history of the wars of the Jews may serve as a larger comment on our Savior's prophecies of the destruction of Jerusalem." End quote. Newton's position was the same as Eusebius. Both scholars believe that Josephus designed nothing less than to honestly record the war between the Romans and the Jews. The events that Josephus recorded. No, go upstairs. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. Go upstairs. You get out. Get out. Nah, nope, get out. Doing most. The events that Josephus recorded seemed to be the fulfillment of Jesus' prophecy and did not strike them as in any way suspicious. On the contrary, they saw the relationship between the two works as proof of Jesus' divinity. They were in no way unusual in holding this view. It was held by the majority of Christian scholars until the end of the 19th century. The belief that Josephus' depiction of the destruction of Jerusalem proved that Jesus had seen into the future was largely forgotten during the 20th century. Only one denomination of Christians, the Preterists, still cites the parallels between the wars of the Jews and the New Testament as proof of Jesus' divinity. Currently, most Christians either believe that the apocalypse Jesus envisioned has not yet occurred, or they ignore these prophecies altogether. As Christianity's third millennium begins, few of its members are even aware of the parallels that were once of such importance to the religion. However, I believe that Eusebius was correct in stating that when one compares the wars of the Jews to the New Testament, one must admit to a relationship that, if not divine, is at the least strange. The parallels between Jesus's prophecies and Titus's campaign do indeed seem too precise to have been the result of chance. If one accepts the traditional understanding that the New Testament and the wars of the Jews were written at different times by different authors, then only one explanation for the parallels would seem to be the one given by Eusebius, that they were caused by something truly divine. Of course, before accepting any phenomenon as miraculous, one should first determine if a non-supernatural explanation for it exists. All scholars have faced the same difficulty in trying to understand the first century Judea, a lack of source material. Before the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, the important literature describing first-hand events of the first century Judea were the New Testament and the works of Josephus. For 2 millennia, only these two works illuminated an era so seminal to Western civilization. This absence is unusual. In Greece, thousands of pieces of writing from the same era have been discovered. Jesus constantly complained about scribes who, one must assume, were writing something. Quote, Jesus began to explain to his disciples that he must go to Jerusalem and suffer much cruelty from the elders and the high priests and the scribes. End quote. And that's Matthew chapter 16, verse 21. Jerry Shalom. Rome's occupation of Judea spanned the entire first century. Josephus records that during this period, a movement of Jewish zealots called the Sicarii continually staged insurrections against the empire and its surrogate, the family of Herod. The Sicarii, like the Christians, were messianic and looked forward to the arrival of the Son of God who would lead them against Rome. Remember, we explained that yesterday and what the Sicarii really was looking for. They weren't looking for this divine being who had died and rose from the grave. They were looking for the leader that Yahuwah would raise up from the midst of them, right? And they looked for him to be a military leader. So that's what they were looking to, right? Anybody who had military prowess and led an army that could control people and get things done, that's what they were looking for. They were constantly looking. And let me tell you something. Remember these whole shenanigans not too long ago about Rabbi Shlomo? All right, let me see that. The guy, I did a video on it. It's a little over an hour long. This whole thing, the Latin channels and Spanish channels had put out that during last Passover that Israel had crowned their Messiah. This dude, right? He was nothing more than a child prodigy or whatever who's really learned in the scriptures. This guy right here. If you go read a little bit about him, right? If you go read a little bit about him, it will tell you a little bit about his military prowess and his understanding of scriptures and the wisdom. He's one of the youngest rabbis that they have. And so while they're trying to make the prophecies line up, they're looking for some of these things, right? So when I look at there's a difference between like the Messianic Jews, meaning now the Jews who are now for Jesus, and you have the Orthodox ones, right? The Orthodox Jews, right, although they have assumed identity of another people, right? We all know who the people are. Although they have assumed identity of another people, they are trying to stick as close to the script, or they've been lied to, lies have been passed down to them, right? They're trying to stick as close to the script as possible of what the original people were looking for, right? Which is why they said this particular gentleman, who they said that they crowned last Passover as Messiah, as Mashiach, the one that they're looking for. He's passed us about all the tests. They're putting him through this, making sure he lines up to all the prophecies, right? Him right there. If you understand it, you see that, and as all of these things are unfolding, you begin to see pieces of the puzzle fit in place and why they're moving exactly the way they are moving, right? It'll blow your mind. Start unraveling this sweater. Keep pulling on that sweater string, y'all. Just pay attention, listen. Rome's occupation of Judea spanned the entire first century. Josephus records that during this period, a movement of Jewish zealots called the Sicarii continually staged insurrections against the empire and its surrogate, the family of Herod. The Sicarii, like the Christians, were messianic and looked forward to the arrival of the Son of God who would lead them against Rome. Josephus dates the origin of this messianic movement to the census of Quirinius, curiously also given in the Gospels as the date of the birth of Christ. This movement existed for over 100 years, but until the Dead Sea Scrolls were discovered, no document that could possibly have been a part of its literature had ever been found. The literature of the Sicarii movement is most likely missing because the Romans destroyed it. A number of the Dead Sea Scrolls found hidden in caves described the uncompromising set that awaited a Messiah who would be a military leader. Messianic literature of this sort was surely a catalyst for the Sicarii's rebellion and would have been targeted for destruction by the Romans, who are known to have destroyed Judaic literature. Oh yeah, your Torah is burnt, right? The Talmud, for example, records the Roman practice of wrapping Jews in their religious scrolls and lighting them afire. Josephus notes that following their war with the Jews, the Romans took the Torah scrolls and other religious literature and locked them up inside the Flavian palace in Rome. The only works to have survived this century of religious warfare, the Gospels, and the histories of Josephus had a pro-Roman perspective. In the case of Josephus's histories, this is hardly surprising, as he was an adopted member into the imperial family. It is notable, however, that the New Testament also has a point of view positive to the Romans. The first century was not a time when one would expect that a Judaic cult with a view favorable to the empire would have emerged. Yet the New Testament texts never portray Roman soldiers in a negative light and actually describe them as devout and God-fearing. Quote, there was a certain man in Caesarea called Cornelius, a centurion of the band called the Italian Band, a devout man, and one that feared God with his entire house, which gave much alms to the people and prayed to God always. End quote. Acts chapter 10, verse 1 through 2. The New Testament also presents tax collectors who would have been working for the Romans in a favorable light. The Apostle Matthew, for example, is actually described as a publican or tax collector. The citizenship espoused in the works of Josephus and the New Testament would have been seen favorably by Rome. Each work proclaims the holiness of subservience, and each takes the position that, as it is God who has given the Romans their power, it is therefore against God's will to resist them. For example, the Apostle Paul teaches that Roman judges and magistrates were a threat only to evildoers. Quote, therefore, the man who rebels against his ruler is resisting God's will, and those who thus resist will bring punishment upon themselves. For judges and magistrates are to be feared, not by right doers, but by wrongdoers. You desire, do you not, to have no reason to fear your ruler? You desire, do you not, to have no reason to fear your ruler? Well, do the thing that is right, and then he will commend you. For he is God's servant for your benefit. But if you do what is wrong, be afraid. He does not wear the sword to no purpose. He is God's servant and administrator to inflict punishment upon evildoers. We must obey, therefore, not only in order to escape punishment, but also for conscience sake. Why, this is really the reason you pay taxes. For tax gatherers are ministers of God, devoting their energies to this very work. End quote. And you can find that garbage from Paul. Listen, if you read it, it seems okay, right? In theory, it seems okay, right? We don't just purposely go out here and do what's wrong and not pay our taxes and stuff. I ain't saying not to do that, right? Everybody has to pay their taxes. If you're a citizen in America and you use their system, you're required to pay taxes, right? But listen to what they're doing, how they set all this up, right? That's why I say Paul and his shenanigans, right? End quote. You find that in Romans chapter 13, verses 2 through 6. Josephus shared Paul's belief that the Romans were God's servants and inflicted punishment on evildoers. Quote, indeed, what can it be that hath stirred up an army of the Romans against our nation? Is it not the impiety of the inhabitants? Whence did our servitude commence? Was it not derived from the seditions that were among our forefathers, when the madness of Aristobulus and Hyrcanus, I probably screwed that name up, I'm sure I did. Hyrcanus and our mutual quarrels brought Pompey upon this city, and when God reduced those under subjection to the Romans who were unworthy of the liberty they had enjoyed, end quote. Thus, the only works that describe first century Judea share a positive viewpoint towards Rome. Why is it that only they have survived? I believe that the New Testament and the works of Josephus survived because they were both created and promulgated by Rome. This work presents evidence indicating that the Gospels were created by Titus Flavius, the second of the three Flavian emperors. Titus created the religion for two reasons. The most obvious being to act as a theological barrier against the spread of the militant Messianic Judaism of Judea to other provinces. Josephus mentions this threat in the Wars of the Jews. Quote, "The Jews hoped that all of their nation, which were beyond Euphrates, would have raised an insurrection with them." End quote. Titus had another, more personal reason for creating the Gospels, this being that the Jewish zealots refused to worship him as a god. Though he was able to crush their rebellion, Titus could not force the zealots, even through torture or death, to call him Lord. So he got the big head and he pissed because they not bowing to him, calling him God, right? Lisa Shalom. Josephus noted the staunchiness with which the zealots adhered to their monotheistic faith, stating that the Sicarii do not value dying in any kind of death, nor indeed do they take heed the dying of their relations, nor can any fear make them call any man Lord. As I noted in the introduction, to circumvent Jews' stubbornness, Titus designed a hidden message within the Gospels. This message reveals that he, Jesus, who interacted with the disciples following the crucifixion, was not a Jewish Messiah, but he himself. Unable to torture the Jews into foregoing their religion and worshiping him, Titus and his intellectuals created a version of Judaism that worshiped Titus without its followers knowing it, right? So indirectly, Christians are worshiping Titus and Josephus, all these, right? And in places, Satan, without even knowing it. You'll see all the shenanigans and how they interchangeably, remember I told you, just like on Coming to America, how Eddie Murphy play all them parts? Flavius Josephus is playing all these parts, y'all. Just giving them different names and putting on costumes and stuff, making you think, just for the sake of the story, for a good storyline, that these are different folk. It's the same people. Unable to torture the Jews into foregoing their religion and worshiping him, Titus and his intellectuals created a version of Judaism that worshiped Titus without its followers knowing it. When his clever literacy device was finally discovered, Titus would be able to show posterity that he had not failed in his efforts to make the Jews call him Lord. Though always seen as a religious document, the New Testament is actually a political document, a monument to the vanity of a Caesar, one that has finally been discovered. Is this your king? Is this your king? Titus backdated. Oh, here we go. Listen, for everybody loving these Jesus prophecies, listen. Titus backdated Jesus' ministry to 30 CE, thereby enabling him to foresee events in the future. In other words, Jesus was able to accurately prophesy events from the coming war with the Romans because they had already occurred. As a part of this scheme, the fictitious stories of Josephus were created so as to document the fact that Jesus had lived and that his prophecies had come to pass. While the above claims will and should trigger skepticism, one needs to remember that as Christianity describes its origins, it was not only supernatural, but also historically illogical. Christianity, a movement that encouraged pacifism and obedience to Rome, claims to have emerged from a nation engaged in a century-long struggle with Rome. An analogy to Christianity's purported origins might be a cult established by Polish Jews during World War II that set up its headquarters in Berlin and encouraged its members to pay taxes to the Third Reich, REICH. When one looks at the form of early Christianity, one sees not Judea, but Rome. The church's structures of authority, its sacraments, its college of bishops, the title of the head of religion, the supreme pontiff, were all based on Roman, not Judaic traditions. Somehow, Judea left little trace on the form of religion that purportedly originated inside of it. Early Christianity was also Roman in its worldview. That is, like the Roman Empire, the movement saw itself as ordained by God, to spread knowledge throughout the world. Therefore, before Christianity, no religion is known to have seen itself quite so destined to conquer, to become the religion of all mankind. The type of Judaism described in the Dead Sea Scrolls, for example, was very selective as to who was allowed to join its community. As the following passage from the Damascus document shows, quote, "No madman or lunatic or simpleton or fool or blind man or maimed or lame or deaf man and no minor shall enter into the community, for the angels of holiness are with them." End quote. And also, if you have the book, beside all these quotes, you will see little numbers like it was a number 9. This is giving you where to find this reference in the back where all of the references are for the chapter 9, chapter 1, and it has 9. This is where this reference comes from, right? So all of that is back in the index, all right? This exclusionary approach was the mirror opposite of Christianity. In comparing the text below to its mirror above, notice that the Gospel's author seemed to have made a comical editorial decision. He chose to render the madmen, lunatics, simpletons, and fools who came to Jesus simply as many others. Quote, "And a great multitude came unto him, having with them those that were lame, blind, dumb, maimed, and many others, and cast them down at Jesus' feet, and he healed them." End quote. So we just read from one of the original scrolls, the Damascus document, which says it's the direct opposite. But get into the New Testament flips it around, right? Okay. To try to understand how Christianity established itself within the Roman Empire is to sift through mysteries piled atop the unknown. For example, how did a religion that began as verbal traditions in Hebrew or Aramaic change into one whose surviving scripture is written almost entirely in Greek? According to Albert Schweitzer, quote, "The great and still undischarged task which confronts those engaged in the historical study of primitive Christianity is to explain how the teachings of Jesus developed into the early Greek theology." End quote. The most historically illogical aspect of Christianity's origin, however, was its Messiah. Jesus had a political perspective that was precisely the opposite of the Son of David, who was awaited by the Jews of this era. Josephus records that what most inspired the Jewish rebels was their belief in the Judaic prophecies that foresaw a world ruler or Messiah emerging from Judea. The same prophecies that the New Testament claims predicted a pacifist. But now, what did the most to elevate them in undertaking this war was an ambiguous oracle that was also found in their sacred writings, how about that time one from their country should become governor of the habitable earth. The Jews took this prediction to belong to themselves in particular. End quote. The Dead Sea Scrolls confirm that the Jews of this era indeed took this prediction to belong to themselves and awaited a Messiah who would be the Son of God. Quote, "Son of God he will be called, and Son of the Most High they will name him. His kingdom will be an everlasting kingdom. He will judge the earth in truth. The great God will give people into his hand, and all of them will be cast down before him. His sovereignty is everlasting sovereignty." End quote. In the following passage from the Damascus document, notice that the Messiah envisioned by the author was, like Jesus, a shepherd, though not one who would bring peace. Quote, strike the shepherd and the sheep will be scattered, but I will turn my hand upon the little ones. End quote. That's Zechariah chapter 13, verse 7. Now those who hear him are the flocks afflicted. These will escape in the period of God's visitation, but those who remain will be offered up to the sword when the Messiah of Aaron and Israel comes, as it was in the period of the first visitation. As he reported by the hand of Ezekiel, a mark shall be put on the forehead of those who sigh and groan. And that's found in Ezekiel chapter 9, verse 4. But those who remain were given up to the sword of vengeance, the avenger of the covenant. The following passage from the Targum, the Aramaic versions of the Old Testament, also describes a warrior Messiah. Clearly, this would have been the nature of the King Messiah of the Jews, who would, in Josephus's words, most elevate them in undertaking this war. How lovely is the King Messiah who is to rise from the house of Judah. He girds his loins and he goes out to wage war on those who hate him, killing kings and rulers and reddening the mountains with the blood of their slain. With his garments dipped in blood, he is like one who treads grapes in the winepress. However, the New Testament and the histories of Josephus each imply that the Messiah was not this nationalist leader who had been foreseen, but rather a pacifist who encouraged cooperation with Rome. For example, consider Jesus' instruction in Matthew chapter 5, verse 41. When anyone conscripts you for 1 mile, go along 2. Or if they hey, man, go walk a mile with me. He said, walk 2 with him. Roman military law permitted its soldiers to conscript, which is to demand that civilians carry their 65-pound packs for a length of 1 mile. Roman roads had mile markers or milestones so that there would be no dispute over whether or not this requirement had been met. Why would the Messiah, foreseen by Judaism's xenophobic world ruler prophecies, urge Jews to go the extra mile for the Roman army? When one compares the militaristic Messiah described in the Dead Sea Scrolls and other early Judaic literature with the pacifistic Messiah described in the New Testament and Josephus' Testimonium, one aspect of the lost history of Judea seems visible. An intellectual battle was waged over the nature of the Messiah. The New Testament and Josephus stood together on one side of this struggle, claiming that a pacifistic Messiah had appeared who advocated cooperation with Rome. On the other side of this theological divide stood the Jewish zealots who awaited a militaristic Messiah to lead them against Rome. Among Christianity's oldest surviving records is the Epistle of Clement to the Corinthians, dated to 96 CE. The letter was purportedly written by Pope Clement I to a congregation of Christians who had apparently rebelled against the church's authority. It shows that even at the onset of religion, the Bishop of Rome was able to give orders to the Church of Corinth, and that the Church of Rome used the Roman army as an example of the kind of discipline and obedience that it expected from the other churches and their members. Boy, I tell you, if this ain't the greatest ploy to keep a warrior people pacified and dumbed down, to keep them from rising up in insurrections, y'all, I don't know what is. And everybody that's ever been caught in Christianity know, calm down, sister, calm down. Just take it to the Lord. Just take it to the Lord. He is going to defend you. He is going to fight all your battles, but you don't go do it. Vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord. And they pacify you. Things that are being done wrong. Pope steadily molesting your sons, and mostly your sons, but things are being done, so just take it to the Lord. We'll take it before the board, and like all of this stuff where you in your right mind, if somebody comes into your house trying to touch your children, you will happily spend the rest of your days behind bars, or if the cops rolled up, you would happily go to the grave smiling for defending your children, right? Oh, but not the Christian political document called the New Testament. No, take it to the Lord, sister. No, brother. No. Let's bring it before the congregation. Maybe we can. Absolutely not. Just think about the victim in those things, and children who can't defend themselves, and they're looking to their parents to defend them. That the Pope did this. What do you mean the Pope did this? Pope, take it. We needed to do this for this ritual ceremony. Oh, okay, Billy. Well, the Pope said, what? Absolutely not. Not on my watch. They would have been putting me in jail, right? Because the Pope's head would be rolling off the altar, literally. I would have cut his head off if there was a sword nearby. Not on my watch. You see what Christianity does to you? It gets you to accept the dumbest stuff. Okay, let me finish reading, y'all. I'm just hold my comments to myself. All right. Let me read this last sentence, though. Let me read this again. Wait. Let me just go back to this last little paragraph. Among Christianity's oldest surviving records is the Epistle of Clement to the Corinthians, dated to 96 CE. The letter was purportedly written by Pope Clement I to a congregation of Christians who had apparently rebelled against the church's authority. Oh, you messing up the church's money. We need to bring order. It shows that even at the onset of the religion, the Bishop of Rome was able to give orders to the Church of Corinth, and that the Church of Rome used the Roman army as an example of the kind of discipline and obedience that it expected from other churches and their members. Quote, the Church of God which sojourneth in Rome to the Church of God which sojourneth in Corinth. Let us mark the soldiers that are enlisted under our rulers, how exactly, how readily, how submissively they execute the orders given them. All are not prefects, nor rulers of thousands, nor rulers of hundreds, nor rulers of fifties, and so forth. But each man in his own rank executed the orders given by the king and the governors. End quote. And you can find that in 1 Clement chapter 37, verses 2 through 3. I know you don't see that today in the New Testament, but these are the documents and stuff that they pull from and they use to justify this disgusting crap. But how did the church's authority structure come into existence resembling the Roman military? Who established it and who gave the bishops such absolute control? Cyprian wrote, quote, the bishop is in the church and the church is in the bishop. If anyone is not with the bishop, that person is not in the church, end quote. And why was Rome, supposedly the center of Christian persecution, chosen as the church's headquarters? A Roman origin would explain why the Bishop of Rome was later made the supreme pontiff of the church, and why Rome became its headquarters. It would explain how a Judean cult eventually became the state religion of the Roman Empire. A Roman origin will also explain why so many members of a Roman imperial family, the Flavians, were recorded as being among the first Christians. The Flavians would have been among the first Christians because, having invented the religion, they were, in fact, the first Christians. When considering a Flavian invention of Christianity, one should bear in mind that the Flavian emperors were considered to be divine and often created religions. The oath that they swore when being ordained emperor began with the instruction that they would do all things divine in the interest of the empire. The Ark of Titus, which commemorates Titus' destruction of Jerusalem, is inscribed with the following statement: Senatus Populus K. Romanus Divo Tito Divi Vespiniani. I screwed it up, I know. F. Vespiano, August. The Senate and the people of Rome to the divine Titus, son of the divine Vespasian. Fragments of the written pronouncement given in 69 CE by the prefect of Egypt, Tiberius Alexander, in which he recognized Vespasian as the new emperor, are still in existence. Vespasian is referred to in them as the divine Caesar and Lord. Josephus also believed that Vespasian was a divine person. He claimed that Judaism's messianic prophecies foretold that Vespasian would become the Lord of all mankind. This indicates that in the eyes of Josephus, Vespasian was not only the Jesus or Savior of Judea, but he was also the Christ, the Greek word for the Messiah that was foreseen in the prophecies of a Judaic world leader. And after we're going to pause at the end of this page, y'all, because we are already at an hour and 4 minutes. Quote, "Thou, O Vespasian, thinkest no more that thou hast taken Josephus himself captive, but I come to thee as a messenger of greater tidings. For had not I been sent by God to thee, O thou Vespasian, art Caesar and emperor, thou and this thy son, bind me now still faster, and keep me for thyself, for thou, O Caesar, art not only Lord over me, but over the land and the sea and all mankind." End quote. Josephus, in proclaiming himself God's minister, also described an ending of God's contract with Judaism that was quite similar to the position that the New Testament takes concerning Christianity. The only difference being that Josephus believed that God's good fortune had gone over not to Christianity, but to Rome and its imperial family, the Flavians. Quote, "Since it pleaseth thee, who has created the Jewish nation, to depress the same, since all their good fortune is gone over to the Romans, and since thou hast made choice of this soul of mine to foretell what is to come to pass hereafter, I willingly give them my hands and am content to live. And I protest openly that I do not go over to the Romans as a deserter of the Jews, but as a minister from thee." End quote. Scholars have dismissed Josephus's application of Judaism's messianic prophecies to Caesar as simple flattery. I disagree, and shall show that not only did Josephus believe Vespasian to be God, and Titus therefore the Son of God, but that his histories were entirely constructed to demonstrate that very fact. And we are going to pause right here, y'all. We'll pick this up tomorrow. I knew we probably weren't going to get through all of chapter 1, but I think we will finish it tomorrow. Yeah, we'll definitely finish it tomorrow. And then we'll go on to chapter 2. All right, y'all. So I hope y'all enjoyed the reading for today as we breaking this down and uncovering these lies that has had our people and the majority of the world sleep for many, many millennia, y'all. All right, y'all. So remember, y'all can y'all go purchase your own copy from Amazon. I'm giving y'all the same link that I got mine from. I'm just reading this to y'all. I ain't making no money from none of this stuff. I'm here using my time trying to wake my brethren and sistren up. Listen, I'm giving y'all all the resources I come across, right? So all of that stuff will be there. It's on, you can get it in Kindle. You can get the audio version and you can get the hardback version, whichever one suits you best, or you can get them all. I got all of them now, right? So when I can sit down and read, or especially right here for this, I got the hardback. When I'm moving around, I want to listen to it, I can listen to it. And sometimes when I'm laying in the bed or kicking back and I want to read it, but I really don't want to flip through the pages, I just go to my Kindle. I actually got the Kindle the other day. So I went through, I was like, oh, I did download this because I thought I didn't. I put it in the cart, but I didn't get it right then. I just got it later. I'm like, I really don't need all three of these versions. But one day when I didn't, I was just being lazy. I didn't want to get up and go get the book. I'm like, let me just go in here and, so it's convenient. All right, y'all. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the reading for today. It is Thursday, September the 2nd, 2021, day 249 of year 3 of reading through the books of the law and the prophets, and of the 3-year consecutive day count, day 918. We read Hosea, the last 2 chapters, chapter 13 and 14, and we began the book of Joel, and we read Joel chapter 1. We read the first chapter of Caesar's Messiah, starting at page 21, and we paused on page 34. And we'll pick it up tomorrow. All right, y'all. So let's go ahead and do the blessing and get out of here and enjoy our day, beautiful people. Remember, the blessing is found in Numbers chapter 6, starting in verse 22 through 27. Remember, the first 21 verses is the Nazarite vow. Man or woman can take it. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise ye shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah will kneel before us, presenting gifts, and will guard us with a hedge of protection. Yahuwah will illuminate the wholeness of his being towards us, bringing order, and he will provide us with love, sustenance, and friendship. Yahuwah will lift up his wholeness of being and look upon us, and he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. And if that sounds unfamiliar to you, it's because I got this. This is a more accurate translation of the scrolls, but what you're familiar with is this version in the KJV, which we had been reading from the very beginning until I realized there was a more accurate rendering of this, which I just read. But this is what you normally hear. And Yahuwah spake unto Moses, saying, Speak unto Aaron and unto his sons, saying, On this wise you shall bless the children of Israel, saying unto them, Yahuwah bless us and keep us. Yahuwah make his face to shine upon us and be gracious unto us. Yahuwah lift up his countenance upon us and give us peace. And they shall put my name upon the children of Israel, and I will bless them. So, I mean, it's good either way, but I like the accurate rendering. It seems more intimate and personal. From what was actually being said, and how Yahuwah relates to his children like you would relate to your children, right? And when it says Yahuwah would kneel down before us presenting gifts, that's not necessarily him stepping down from his divinity. It's like a parent, if you have a child, right? And if you bring them a gift, you come into the house and you just kind of kneel down, Daddy, Mommy, you just kind of kneel down. You come down to their level. Not that you're lowering yourself in any kind of way. You still hold your perfect authority, whatever, but you bring yourself down to eye level to let them know, baby, I love you, right? You know, so that's why I love the accurate rendering so much. I'm like, man, it gets you right there, right deep down in your shanana. Shanana means your soul, your spirit, y'all. Deep down in the inmost parts, so you feel it all on your insides, right? So I like it because it's more intimate to me. Finding a Creator, Shalom. What version are you reading, or did you translate from Hebrew? This was there's a really, really good Hebrew teacher. His name is Jeff Benner. You can look him up. Matter of fact, I'll share some of his resources. But he is a really, really good translator. Now, I can translate Hebrew. It just takes me a long time because I got to check and I got to double check and I got to make sure I got everything right. I'm just a little slow, right? But I trust him. You know, he's a really, really good, thorough Hebrew teacher, and all forms of Hebrew, whether you're doing a modern, he knows them all, even to the Paleo. And I even have the Torah in Paleo Hebrew with it's nothing but symbols. It really looks like a bunch of I ain't gonna say a bunch of child's drawings. As you know, there's no way, form, disrespect or anything, but it has all the pictures, like the ox head, like each scripture, the words and stuff. It looks like that. Now, I can read it, but to get through one sentence, it just takes me an extremely long time. Because I got to decipher the words, and then I got to make sure I put it in its proper order so it makes coherent sense, right? So, but no, I got it from him because I'm learning from him, right? So that's the more accurate rendering. Like I said, I shared it for you, but the original one that we used to say all the time for the last couple of years came from the King James Version. But the one that I just read, we said he will set in place all we need to be whole and complete. That's the more accurate rendering. Yeah, you are currently learning Hebrew Paleo. Okay. We all learn. But I'll share it. Let me put this up here. I'll share it so you can look. Jeff Benner. Okay. All right, y'all. So all the resources, the little documentary with Caesar's Messiah, where they kind of do the whole little documentary and kind of give you the good summation of all the information and the shenanigans that we're reading through in the book. It's a documentary. It's about an hour long. I share that. The resources where you can purchase it from or download it, and also the stuff about Jeff Benner, y'all. But with that being said, let's go ahead and get out of here. I don't think there was any more questions. Nope. All right, y'all. I love y'all. I see y'all back here tomorrow. Oh, fall feast days are coming up, right? I mentioned it the other day, and as I'm tracking, It might be. Well, it's not going to, because this would be like the first week of September, because we're already in September. But it will be next week, right? So we begin the 7th month. We're currently in the 6th month. So the 7th month begins next year, new moon, right? So that will be. I'm looking at it. It says like the 7th. At first, I was like, wait, this is off a little bit. But then as I'm daily checking and watching, I was like, wait a minute. This actually might be right. Because I mentioned yesterday, I said I think it's going to be off a couple days, But as I'm going out checking and tracking, I'm like, wait a minute. This actually might be right. So it possibly could, new moon could possibly be on the 7th, right? But we're going to start watching. We'll be watching on the Sabbath, which is Monday. As we track it, and as the new moon come in, we'll know. I'll make it known, right? So, but remember, the first day of the 7th month is what? Feast of Trumpets, right? Blow the trumpets in Zion. So you got the horns. You ain't got a horn, it said blow horns, right? So get a horn, a shofar or something. Get a trumpet, right? Blow the trumpets in Zion. You really just being obedient to that, you blow it. But if you're somewhere, listen, here's what I love, right? Last Feast of Trumpets, I didn't realize. Clearly, I don't know everybody here in my subdivision, right? But last Feast of Trumpets, I started hearing, of course, we had already blew ours or whatever. But as the night went on, I began to hear trumpets throughout the neighborhood. I'm like, now, it's other people around here that's keeping the feast days. I'm like, yes, and they're keeping them right. I was like, so somebody else is calculating it right. Because what you're going to find out is, if you follow the Jewish calendar and how they count, they are still a month behind. Like, how... It's a lot of videos where I kind of talk about it, right? So they're actually still considering this to be the 5th month. Right, so they're like people living in America that's following them. They're keeping to the feast days how they calculate it in Jerusalem, but it says wherever you at in the land where you're at, that's when you celebrate. And you got to remember the time zone and the changes of the time zone. So sometime over here, like today is September the 2nd. They about to go into September the 3rd. So it's like if you're keeping it on if you're keeping it on September the 3rd, I know that's not a date, right? Let's just say it's September the 3rd, right? It will be September the 3rd for them, but it will be September the 2nd for us. But if you're keeping to the dates that they put out, you're already a day late celebrating. And that's how they're getting off on the Sabbath as well. Oh, this is when Jerusalem is celebrating, but so we're also celebrating. But you're not living currently in the land of Jerusalem. If you're living currently in the land of Jerusalem, okay, celebrate it on the day that they do. But when we're here, you have to be mindful of the time zones. When we see it in the land where we are, because everybody's going to see it, but everybody sees it at different times as it passes through. Yes, baby.
Maybe I can end the video then.
Yes, I'm about to end it now. So just be mindful of that. So that's why I know everybody's learning. I used to do it the same way until I realized, like, wait a minute, we didn't figure this part in. Maybe that's off, right? So we're learning, we're adjusting. We're all growing together, right? So that's why I'm really kind of harp on people who still kind of getting it wrong, because I don't have everything right? We're learning together. We're growing together. Girl, what is this on your face? So, but all right, y'all, with that being said, let's get out of here. Love y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow bright and early, 7:15 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Peace. Girl, what is this? What did you eat? What is it? Toothpaste? Girl, come on, end the video. What is that? What are you eating? Yeah, candy and stuff. Okay, let's go. You don't want to see me do this. Put my spit on her face. In the video, girl. In the video. All right, y'all. Peace.